time for another edition of Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee. And we're going to talk about some snowbird action here this week on the podcast, Sean. Since you were, down in Florida, kind of sparked a little conversation piece. It's like, hey, that's the number one number one destination for snowbirds. But let's talk a little bit about just that concept. And do you have a lot of people doing that from your neck of the woods that head to some of the locations during the cold months?
Yeah, I mean, here we've got a handful of families that live in Salt Lake we call it the May to October time frame. Salt Lake is beautiful that time of year, and you get into the fall, it's still pretty nice out here. You get the color changes, and then we're going. It's November. Snow's going to start.
Cold.
It's too cold for us. Which I'm the exact same way. Like as I get older, and as my wife and I prepare for our next phase, what are we looking at? And we have a lot of families that go to either Arizona,
that makes sense.
Phoenix, or down to southern Utah, St. George, and then you've got the Mesquite right on the Nevada border. So you get Nevada state tax law, which is 0. But we got a lot of people that kind of St. George is so close, right? Like you can maintain 2 homes, you drive back and forth in 3.5 hours, 3:45, depending on how fast you drive. And so those are kind of the areas around here. We don't get a lot of people that are like, hey, I'm bolting out of here to go to Florida because it's just so far.
Yeah, but it is the number one destination. So looking up, I think it was from Source Cafe, I think we got this information, but number one location for retire. And everybody's known that forever, right? That's been the longstanding joke for 40 years. I'm going to Florida, right? You get older, you move from New York or, the East Coast down to Florida. Texas is making a real run at the top dog slot. California was gaining for a while, but outside from even the fire, tragedies that we've seen recently, I think a lot of their economic policies has gotten people over the last number of years to not really much, go to California quite as much. Right. Arizona is also moving up that list as well.
Yeah. And I actually had a family talk to us about moving out to Myrtle Beach. Like, should we look at the Carolinas?
South Carolina, yeah.
I think is becoming more appealing as well.
Yeah, the North Carolina is the better Carolina. Just saying, but I'm going to get a bunch of comments in the
absolutely.
South Carolina. That's all right. That's fine.
I have a buddy from Montana, and I'm from Wyoming. I'm like, Wyoming is the way better state. Like, let's not even mess around with that.
Hey, all you got to do is drive on the roads in North Carolina and South Carolina, and you will agree with me. That's enough right there to do the difference. But,
I bet.
So, so if you're thinking about snowbirding, you mentioned like 2 homes. So let's talk about some of the pros and cons of some things to think about. And also just the way things have changed a little bit. People would go get a full-on second home, right? So you kind of mentioned that already. Well, there's a lot of expense. So let's just start there and then we'll kind of fill in some other gaps. But that's a lot of planning too. Make sure you're talking with your professionals and really strategizing for that, because you now have to maintain 2 homes, and that gets costly.
Well, the 2 homes come with 2 sets of bills.
Sure.
Right? So you got your utilities. Well, let's even start if you haven't paid off your first home, and then you add a second home. Now you got
2 mortgages. Yep. 2 property taxes.
2 property taxes. 2 water bills. 2 sewer bills. You have trash, electricity, internet. Like.
Even if you turn it off for half the year, right? I mean, there's still things that happen. I mean, you're going to have to do maintenance. Things are still going to break.
Well, and just like little things like TV, how are you going to handle the expense of TV? Now, right now, with our families that go back and forth, I've recommended like YouTube TV.
Sure.
Why? Because you can use it in multiple places. So there are certain things that you have to account for. If you're going to maintain 2 homes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's been the traditional way of snowbirding, right? For the longest time. So, if you want to find silver linings in dark times, whether you want to use COVID as that catalyst or not, But it has changed a lot of things. I think we all learned it was okay to do things more remotely, right? Sure, we do the Zoom meetings and stuff like that, but I think people also got a little more comfortable with banking, and with online banking and with online financial, transference of data and things of that nature, so on and so forth. And I will give credit to the millennials and the younger generations here because they have really embraced the idea of working remotely part of the year and then being back at home part of the year. And it's now started to trickle out into, older generations, right? So now it's like I mentioned the RV thing. Hey, maybe we don't want to buy a second house and be confined to Florida like the tradition is. Maybe we want to get an RV and go to St. George for this part of the year, and then go to Yuma, and then go to so on and so forth. That's an option that people are now starting to do more.
Well, and I've got this one of the families that I work with, one of my favorite families. They called me one day and said, "Hey, Sean, we're selling our home. We're going." Like, wait, what? So what? Their home expenses are gone. But now they're like, hey, they're bouncing back and forth. They're Airbnb, they're taking their RV, they're seeing the entire country, and they're living in these different areas of the country because they have the freedom and flexibility to do that. And rather than maintaining two sets of expenses, they're like, guess what? We'll settle down at some point.
Maybe
we are going to experience life.
And it gives you the chance to try the areas too, right? And be like, okay, we do like this one better than that. And that's something that's really changed in the snowbird lifestyle. I think that's a great change. Yeah, it's very cool. Yeah, my wife's uncle, he's been doing the RV thing for years. He's all over everywhere, right? And I'm like, he's in, I think his late 60s now, or maybe he's right even at 70. And I'm like, at what point are you gonna, pick a spot? He's like, I'm not sure yet. He's still digging it. So
some point I'll get the call, hey, we're ready to settle down and wherever.
Yeah.
But until then, every time we do a review, I'm like, hey, where are you guys?
Yeah.
How's the experience?
And we can do the review like this, just like we're doing right now. Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit of that from the financial planner side. There's a commercial campaign that came out a couple of years ago. I don't know if you saw this or not, with the actor Paul Giamatti. He's got that kind of beard like you've got. He's got a very gruff voice, pretty cool actor, does a lot of interesting things. And in it, he plays a financial advisor. And clearly he's an advisor to some sort of a celebrity, some sort of a person making a lot of money. And so the guy, he gets a phone call and he's like, I did a thing, and the advisor is like, oh no, what? And of course, the ad campaign is to show the value and the reasonableness of a Volkswagen, because I believe he winds up buying a Volkswagen, and the advisor is very happy about that purchase, right? But that kind of mindset, do you worry if people kind of call you up and go, hey, Sean, we did a thing? In this case, I'll use the RV as the example. We bought a $100,000 RV that we weren't planning for.
Right.
Does that throw a little monkey in the wrench a little bit?
If it's not planned for, that could cause some issues. But I'd say most of the families that we work with, they're like, hey, we want to do this. We're thinking about doing this. How is that going to affect us long term? So, and
that's a great way to do it. Would that be your advice to folks if they're watching? Say, please talk to your advisor.
100%. Talk to your advisor in advance.
Yeah.
Don't drop a bomb on your advisor that says, hey, listen, I retired a week ago. Oh, all right. And like I want a little bit of time to plan, or hey, I bought a car and I want to, I bought an RV and I want to pay for it this year. Like there's some strategy. And in most cases, it's not, can the vehicle be purchased or can the thing be bought? It's
okay,
let's think about how we're going to do it. And so every one of my clients that have had a big purchase over the last 5 years, all of them, we've all had a conversation in advance to determine when is the best timing, how should you pay for it, what's the best option. So if you're listening and you don't work with us, call us, right? But don't drop that bomb on your advisor if you don't, without giving a heads up.
Yeah. And let me, and I'll throw this out for Sean. I mean, look, and any advisor, look, they're not the money police. Their job is not to tell you, no, you can't spend your own money.
Yeah.
You're going to do what you're going to do. However, if you don't want the ripple effects that come with jacking up the plan, just talk to them about it, right? That way, to your point, maybe we pulling it from this account versus that account or whatever the case is, and we're trying to be tax efficient on it so we can keep we can maximize this deal.
or we pull half of it out because your income limits are too high this year. We want to keep you under IRMA. There's a lot of planning that needs to go on. For big purchases have ripple down, like you said, ripple down effects.
Right.
Especially if your assets are coming from, oh, well, we just pulled money out of the IRA and we're just going to deal with it. Well,
Yeah.
crap. All right, let's figure this out in advance. That way you can go in, you can say, hey, I want to buy this UTV, or I want whatever it is, boat.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Here's my strategy to do it. Now I have power when I go to the dealership to negotiate and
That's true.
And say, this is what I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
Make it work or don't.
That's true. Because if you think about, most of us know just how bad depreciation is on a vehicle when we buy it. If you think that's bad, go to just about any other vehicle, go to a boat, go to an RV, it's a,
Yep.
it jumps right off the cliff when you get those. And granted, that's not why you're getting it. You're getting it because you're going to do this lifestyle. But, back to the snowbirding thing, that's a new option that a lot of people are enjoying. So any kind of thoughts or anything that you want to share from that snowbirding standpoint that you've seen through your years helping people?
Yeah. I hate winter. I agree with a lot of what people want to do to stay away from winter.
Right.
But here's the deal. If that's a life that you want, right? Like I want to have places, and there's really got to be a sequence of decision making. I'm going to use myself as an example.
Okay.
Because my wife and I are going through this decision making process right now. We know that we want to be in St. George more permanently as we get older.
All right.
So what have we done to prepare? Well, one, we purchased a home down there years ago. We wanted to see if we liked it. Well, we've been fortunate that property values have taken off, et cetera.
Yeah.
Now we've said, okay, we love it down there. We want to be there more permanently. My son potentially wants to go to high school there if things change up here at the high school that he's at. I don't think they will, but that's an option.
Okay.
And so now we've decided, well, we're going to build our permanent home down there. So what is that process? So now we had to buy land, we had to get a building, all that stuff.
Right.
And so now the next step is to sell the current home, pay off our current house here.
Right.
So that kind of the phasing as we go through. And I'm an open book with how my situation, whatever. So we've got the permanent home where we will have a mortgage. Then the next phase will be, well, we want to keep a place here in Salt Lake because we don't know where our daughter's going to end up for college. We don't know where she's going to settle down. We don't know
family there, you got business there. Yeah.
So we'll sell the home here, downsize it, and then pay off the home in St. George. So
right.
It's been a well thought out plan that over the next 7 to 10 years, we're preparing ourselves to be able to be in this situation.
Right.
But we didn't just wake up one day and be like, we're going to build a house in St. George without any thought about how that's going to affect us long term.
And there's a lot of folks out there that do that stuff, and you may have the financial resources to work through that, and you may not. So, depending on who you are, knowing yourself, knowing what you know about yourself, take that, advice and be like, okay, look, let's start working with somebody because I know I've got this itch, right? I know I'm that kind of person that at some point I could look at my wife and go, hey, why don't we, blah, And if you think about going on vacation, every single one of us probably watching this podcast and everybody out there has done this. You go someplace cool for vacation. And what's the first thing you do if at a certain age?
I could live here.
I could live here. Right.
I could live here.
Right. And then you're like, hey, we should go look at a couple things while we're here. And you may never, ever even go back to that location again, right? So
I got on Zillow and I looked at some houses that were for sale. Let's move to Chandler, Arizona.
Yeah.
And,
let's move to Aruba. My wife and I went to Aruba and I'm like, oh, this is the greatest place to the sliced bread. I never want to leave,
Look at the weather. It's 80 degrees. It's perfect.
Yeah. And never went back. So we haven't been back yet. So wouldn't it be smart, right? So the point is, think it through, do a little planning. And that's why I think where the evolution of the snowbird lifestyle has really become pretty cool. Like we talked about earlier, where go check out some places, Airbnb some things as you're getting closer to retirement, when you take your vacation or something and you're still in your working years, you're still 55 or up or 50 or up or whatever. And like I said earlier, young millennials are doing more and more of this. People that are 30 years old, they're going and working in a totally different state for a month, remotely because their job lets them, or whatever the case is, and they're just seeing if they like the area. So we should do more of that.
Do it. And shameless plug, if you like what we're saying, just call us. We'll help you figure it out.
There, exactly. There you go. Well, further shameless plug. Click the links in the show notes below, and you can get yourself onto the calendar. You don't have to even worry about calling. You can just go to the website and do it. But either way you want to go check it out. ElevateMyRetirement.com. The links are listed below. Don't forget to subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Little thumbs up and notification bell so you catch new episodes of Sean and I and our silly faces as we talk about investing, finance, and retirement. Hopefully, we're sharing some useful nuggets of information with you that you guys are digging. And even if it's just one or two pieces here and there, all that stuff adds up, right? You start to kind of put that into your overall strategy and plan. So Sean, my friend, thanks for breaking it down as always. Appreciate you. We'll catch you on the next time on the next episode. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Retirement Elevated with Sean Lee.
This podcast has been prepared for educational and marketing purposes only. The information in this podcast is general in nature, does not constitute personalized investment advice, and does not provide a complete analysis of the subjects discussed. All investments involve risk, and different types of investments involve varying degrees of risk. There can be no assurance that any specific investment strategy will be profitable or suitable to you. Additionally, although information presented in this podcast is believed to be factual and up to date, we do not guarantee its accuracy. You should consult an attorney or tax professional regarding your specific legal or tax situation and should consult a professional advisor before implementing any of the strategies mentioned in this podcast. Investment advisory services are offered through Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group, LLC. Registration as an investment advisor does not constitute an endorsement of Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC by securities regulators, nor does it indicate that the firm has attained a particular level of skill or ability. Insurance advice and products may be offered by a third-party insurance producer, which may be affiliated with Elevated Retirement Group, LLC, and Elevated Capital Advisors, LLC. Mark Killian and Third Wheel Media, LLC receive compensation for their assistance in preparing and hosting this podcast.